In World of Warcraft Hardcore, while quests are the primary way for the player to gather gear and experience during the journey to level 60, they can also serve to be some of the deadliest parts of the leveling journey, with unsuspected casualties happening every day at the hands of some of the game's most infamous quests. Here's a list of the 10 deadliest quests in WoW Classic Hardcore. This list will be in no particular order, and obviously there are dozens of more quests to talk about, so not everything will be discussed in this video. That being said, let's move on to the first entry. First up, we find ourselves in DEADLIEST with the elite quest Khan Haratha, which is at the end of a quest chain if you decide to side with the Magrum Centaur. This quest involves two parts, the first being pretty easy, just requiring you to get the Warhorn mouthpiece from the surrounding centaur. This part can either be really fast or take a really long time, and I've had this thing drop really quickly or take like 45 minutes. The second part of this quest is far scarier and is almost certainly unsoloable, and may even require at least 3 people. Once you blow the horn, you will have to fight multiple waves of centaur. The first has 2 guards who have a sunder and an interrupt, but they are pretty manageable. The second wave has 2 more guards with an additional advisor, with the advisor having a frost shock and a healing wave. This wave can be pretty dicey and many classes will have trouble soloing it. The last wave is the worst though, as it is the same as the previous with an additional level 42 elite, which has a cleave, execute, and a battle shout to buff all the extra adds. This final wave is pretty much a death sentence if you are solo, and can even be risky for 2 people if the interrupts and heals get out of hand with the adds. This quest is made even worse by the terrain since you have to fight the enemies on a high up bridge, which can sometimes make you kill yourself with fall damage if you try to run. Next, and not too far away, we have the escort quest Get Me Out of Here, accepted from the goblin Melissa Brimbuzzle and the same centaur camp in DEADLIEST. This is a pretty regular escort to start with, requiring you to clear the path of centaurs and kill the occasional wave of them. There is a large patrol that will spawn and attack you during the escort around the halfway point, but it is avoidable by hugging the wall and positioning, or by using stealth. The really dangerous part is the massive wave of centaurs at the end, in which 3 centaurs and 2 hyenas spawn to attack you. This is already a lot of mobs for one person to handle, and is made even worse since the centaurs have a net, so if you do need to kite or run away, safety is not guaranteed. I would recommend never trying to solo this quest even if it is non-elite, as most classes will have a very hard time surviving the final wave. Continuing, we have probably the scariest quest in Hardcore, and pretty much a death sentence that is never worth the effort, and that is the quest Helcular's Revenge for Horde players. This quest is part of a chain found in Hillsbrad, and requires you to go within a Yeti cave and charge the rod at 3 separate fires found throughout the cave. This part is easy. The real danger, where death is almost guaranteed, is where you turn the quest in at, which is at the South Shore Graveyard. Since the graveyard is so close to the main town of South Shore, there are guards stationed all around the quest turn-in, which is made even worse by the fact that the aggro radius of the guards is massive. If you aggro a South Shore guard, it is almost always going to spell death for you, unless you have a lot of movement abilities and speed potions at your disposal. Even moves like Feign Death won't work because it can easily be resisted by high level enemies, and Vanish can be iffy if you are not too far away, since the guards can see through your stealth rather easily. Next, an alliance quest that is very dangerous is in Ashenvale, called Supplies to Aberdeen. This is another escort quest, and honestly, the entire list could be full of escort quests since they are so common and always annoying or difficult. This quest is for level 24 adventurers at the end of a quest chain, and requires you to escort a paladin from Maestra's Post to the north entrance between Darkshore and Ashenvale. This quest has 2 scary waves. Once you start it, first is a group of 4 assassins that can be really tricky to fight on your own, especially since the NPC you are escorting is pretty weak and dies rather quickly. So if the NPC has too much aggro and dies, you fail the quest. The second scary part is at the end, where you have to fight 3 satyrs. These satyrs hit really hard with their shadow and lightning bolts and can be a big issue. If they target the escort NPC immediately, odds are he will likely die unless you quickly get aggro, and then you will fail the quest and still have to deal with the satyr enemies left over. If you take immediate aggro, you have to be prepared for a lot of incoming damage, since these satyrs hit so hard. This quest is very difficult for how early in the game it is, and I wouldn't even recommend taking it on unless you are way over leveled, as I've seen players 3 levels over still die to this quest rather easily. Next, we have another alliance quest in the Arathi Highlands, and that is Wanted, Otto, and Falcon Crest. These guys are both some of the deadliest enemies for this level bracket, and are very scary even for many of the elites found in Stromgarde. The problem with this quest is that while Otto and Falcon Crest are both hard-hitting elites, they also are accompanied by 2 other elites next to them, and multiple more in the room with them. This makes this quest essentially require at least 3, but likely 4 or 5 party members to have a relatively safe completion of this quest. This is made even worse by the abilities the mobs have, in which Otto has a stun and an interrupt, and Lord Falconcrest has a disarm and a battle shout to buff the adds around him. Additionally, if you do need to run while doing this quest, it is far in the back of a building, so there could be potential respawns if you clear too slowly, so running isn't a guarantee if things hit the fan. Following with another elite quest, we have Wanted Overseer Maltorius. This is a level 50 quest located in the Searing Gorge that is notorious for being very challenging to take on, even for groups of 2 or 3. The reason this guy is so scary is because he is accompanied by 2 guards and has multiple very scary abilities. Maltorius has very hard-hitting Shadow Bolts and a Shadow Word Pain, both of which can cause the damage to stack up really fast along with the adds. Additionally, he has a Power Word Shield, which makes him even tankier than he already is with his giant health pool of 14,000. The last and most dangerous ability this boss has though is a Polymorph, which is super scary if not interrupted, since it can either allow the enemies to catch up to you while you try to run away, or cut down the numbers in your group. If the healer or the tank gets polymorphed and the aggro isn't under control, Maltorius and the guards can easily go over and one-shot the healer or a DPS. The difficulty of this boss is made worse by the fact that it is in a cave, so running can be a pain with respawns. The easiest way to take this boss down is by having a priest mind control him and let the adds kill him for you. This makes the boss rather trivial and can be soloed by a priest. Otherwise, it can be very difficult even for 3 people to handle. Next up is the quest Stranglethorn Fever, found in Stranglethorn Vale. This quest requires that you defend a troll in a cave from multiple waves of gorillas and kill a boss gorilla for his heart. The first wave has 3 gorillas and isn't terrible, especially since you are starting with full health and cooldowns. The second wave, though, has 4 more gorillas with only a brief period in between each wave. The final wave is far worse though, having 5 gorillas and the boss Mach. This wave is by far the most difficult, and is even hard for groups of 2, despite it not being an elite quest. In between each wave, there is a brief period to eat or drink, but it is relatively small, so if you use cooldowns on the early waves, you won't have them back in time for the last. Unless you have a group of 3 or more, I highly recommend skipping this quest, as there is simply too many mobs to handle. The only way this could be feasible solo is by a mage, but the area you fight them in is relatively small, so kiting will be a challenge. Continuing, we have the quest A Matter of Time, located in the Western Plaguelands at the Ruins of Anderhall. This quest is accepted from Chromie and requires you to kill 15 temporal parasites at the nearby silos. The reason this quest is so dangerous is because when you use the item to spawn the parasites, anywhere between 1 and 3 can spawn at a time, which wouldn't be terrible by itself, but is made worse by the fact that after you kill a parasite, another one can immediately spawn in its place at full health. I've seen this happen upwards of 10 times in a row, and you will have to fight at least 5 pretty often. This is pretty much a death trap for some classes, and can be made even worse if you accidentally stand in between 2 silos and summon the parasites from both, which can easily kill you. A minor cheese for this quest is to fight them by the nearby river, in which you can jump in the water if you are close to death, and while it can be hard to take them to the river, is a pretty safe strategy. The next quest is for Horde, and is pretty infamous, and that is the Test of Endurance located in 1,000 Needles. This quest requires you to go to the back of a harpy cave that is already very dangerous since the harpies are so densely packed, and they have very scary and dangerous abilities like silences and stuns. To complete the quest, you have to click on the food crates in which multiple waves of harpies will begin to spawn, with the boss for the quest in the last wave. Unlike many other quests, the waves for this quest don't wait for you to finish one before the next spawns, which is really bad if your kill speed is too slow. Additionally, the waves don't despawn if someone before you fails the quest or runs away, and the cave has really fast respawns, so it isn't uncommon for you to be unlikely to even be able to attempt the quest, since 6 harpies could be blocking you from the crates. If you do attempt the quest, you will still have a really hard time, since the last wave has 4 harpies, which is probably not manageable by most classes since you are very closed in. The final quest for this video is going to be probably the most well-known difficult quest in Classic, and that is Gorenzo's Orders in the Stone Talon Mountains. This is located in the back of a mine in Windshear Crag, and requires you to defend a goblin from multiple waves of 3 or more kobolds. This quest is unsoloable since you are in a cave, and since it is a lower level, most classes can't deal with 3 or more mobs back to back to back. Additionally, the cave has super high mob density, with kobolds everywhere, so running is not an option unless you clear the cave super fast. I would recommend at least 3 people for this quest, as it is likely one of the hardest quests in the game. And that concludes 10 of the hardest quests for hardcore classic WoW. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this. If there are any other quests you thought should be included, let me know in the comments below. Anyways,